Welcome, everyone. We are so happy you have gathered with us today to hear about NextCycle Michigan and specifically the recycling supply chain track. I am Melissa Radwan, also known as MRAD. I am a senior communication strategist with RRS, and I will be your host today. I have a few items that I'd like to go over before we get rolling. First off, this is being recorded. I'm sure the Zoom woman has told you at this point that it is being recorded and you've had to accept that. But please know that we also will post this to our YouTube channel and send out a link in a follow-up email so that you can review any information or share it out with those that you think would benefit from seeing this. I'd also like to go over just a little bit of a logistical item to get us your questions during this session. We're going to have a Q&A moment at the end of the presentations where we want to hear from you, get some clarifying answers out for you. To do that, please use the Q&A button, not the chat button, but the Q&A button. And you'll see that in your nav bar on your Zoom screen. Please use that. You'll submit them. It will queue them up for me, and I'll be able to ask our panelists at the end those questions and get those answers for you. The chat function, please feel free to introduce yourself. Use this as a networking event as well. Let us know where you're dialing in from and what you're hoping to learn today. It's exciting that you're all here. We're excited about this program. And speaking of excitement, let me introduce Matt Flechter. Matt is a representative from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, also known as EGLE. He has been with the NextCycle Michigan program since the beginning. So he's a great person to talk to you about how this program supports the state of Michigan's objectives in pursuing and building a more robust and just circular economy. So Matt, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm so glad you're all here today. For over 20 years, I've worked to make sure those materials that we put at the curb or at our loading docks make their way into new products made right here in Michigan. And the work that we're doing with NextCycle Michigan is to accelerate and attract investment into Michigan's circular economy. This is an EGLE initiative. We have some great partners with Centropolis Accelerator, the Michigan Recycling Coalition, and of course, Resource Recycling Systems, as we all work together with our team at EGLE to provide that technical assistance and those resources necessary to get your good ideas turned into action. There's a lot of exciting things happening in Michigan. We're getting a lot of attention from around the country with the work that we're doing here. And some of the work is really important because we're aligning our messaging and our stories of how recycling is a climate action. So the work that we do to improve the supply chain, make them more efficient, move materials into new products, is helping to tell the story about how Michigan is addressing our climate solutions. And also, we're really excited that the 115 amendments passed. And what those are the solid waste regulations. And they've set up a whole new system of looking at waste as a resource and creating a process whereby we can grow our circular economy by creating materials management plans, having a level playing field for recycling facilities, and making sure that there's funding and resources available to grow your ideas. And so we're going to be connecting into what those 115 amendments are. And really NextCycle dovetails very nicely with the work that's happening under 115. Ultimately, strong recycling supply chains mean strong markets for our materials. And the work, bringing your ideas forward to Michigan and having us provide those technical assistance and resources are what this is all about. So we're really glad you're here, and let's hear more. Elisa, let's hear about what NextCycle is.
All right, thanks, Matt. First off, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Elisa, and I am a senior consultant at RRS. I am also the project track lead for, I'm sorry, start over. I am the project manager for NextCycle Michigan and the track lead for the public sector track that's running concurrent with this one. So more on that later. NextCycle Michigan is centered around building a circular economy in Michigan. Now, supply chains don't necessarily align with borders. So some supply chain solutions may be regional, statewide, or beyond Great Lakes and, even beyond that. But our focus is on building a circular economy across Michigan that benefits Michigan businesses and communities. The innovation challenges are designed to provide strategic support to businesses and communities through a multi-month program that includes technical support, networking, training workshops, mentorship, peer-to-peer collaboration, and exposure and connections to funding partners and opportunities. The partnership network complements and helps drive the innovation challenge experience by attracting collaborators, funders, and change leaders who can help be a part of accelerating solutions and work to ensure that investable projects get the strategic support and funding needed to be successful. We want to actually move the needle on recovering materials in Michigan. So how do we need to move the needle? NextCycle Michigan is a data-driven initiative. So we know that there's 6.8 million tons of opportunity being wasted. And that means that recyclables are literally going to disposal every year. In order to reach Eagle's 45% goal, we need 2.7 more tons recovered. And so what does that mean? That gives us the opportunity to realize $9 billion in annual labor income and $33 billion in potential economic output. And that's significant because it rivals the transportation and tourism industry. So this means big impact in the state. We also, if you look at the 45% recycling rate, we will see an additional 7 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent avoided, which is significant for clean air in our state. And we also know that through the acceleration of new projects and businesses, we're able to prioritize reaching disadvantaged communities and supporting growth and development of projects to benefit underserved communities and businesses. Local regional circular economies means we can keep the value of materials and recyclables in communities, prioritize community wealth building, and drive investments to communities that need it most. So what do we know? We know a lot. Like I said, this initiative is data-driven. This is just one example. We know where we have processing capacity in the state for your typical recyclables. We also know where it's lacking. Same thing with organics and recyclables. Regardless where your business or project idea falls across the supply chain, this track is designed to support you. So I'd like to just give you a little bit of a sense of the different tracks, and these tracks have been chosen to actually match up with the gaps we're seeing in the state and all those opportunities to drive the circular economy. Food scraps and organics, this is our flows track. There is one happening now. There will be a new cohort happening in the fall. Public sector solutions is the I2P3 track, and that's the one I'll be leading concurrent with the recycling supply chain track. And then there's a recycling innovation and technology track. That's where all the cool, really innovative, new, cool ideas. And there is one of those cohorts going through their programming right now, and there will be another one starting up in the fall. I'm going to leave the recycling supply chains description to Lizzie, who will be speaking in a moment. But that is the track we're focusing on today. So we've made a lot of progress and really demonstrated that this initiative is driving success. There have been 56 teams supported in Innovation Challenge Track so far to date, and 81,000 in NextCycle team awards, and much more in terms of funding and investment opportunities across teams. We're also tracking all projects in the state and all investment across public and private sectors. Over 200 projects are accelerating recycling in the circular economy right now in Michigan, and over 680 million of total investment that we are tracking for completed and underway projects in the state since the Renew Michigan Fund was passed in 2018. So what I would like to do is now hand this off to Lizzie Paul, and she is one of our co-leads in the recycling supply chain track. So take it away, Lizzie.
Thank you, Elisa. Hi, everybody. My name is Lizzie Paul, and I am a consultant with RRS and one of the track leads for this year's Recycling Supply Chain Innovation Challenge. So yeah, as mentioned, I'm here to dive a little deeper and talk about the basics of the recycling supply chain, or RSC Innovation Challenge. This track is focused on private sector project leads. And most of you probably know, but just to cover all bases, recycling supply chains are the pathways that take materials at the end of their intended life and repurpose them into inputs for new products. And this is a key material flow that enables a circular economy to function. And it also represents a shift from a linear take, make, and waste model to a model that keeps materials in use by diverting them away from the landfill, away from the disposal stream, and adding them into the manufacturing stream. As Elisa mentioned, the RSC Innovation Challenge is one of 6 challenge tracks within the NextCycle Michigan program. And again, this particular one is aimed at stimulating the development of a regional circular economy by catalyzing recovery utilization and infrastructure development along the supply chain, again, with a particular focus on private sector stakeholders. So on this slide, you are seeing the RSC Challenge statement. And currently, as Elisa mentioned, we know that Michigan is somewhat of a low performer when it comes to landfill diversion. Some of the most recent research indicates that only about 18% of waste generated in Michigan is actually being diverted from landfill or incineration. So there's a huge opportunity to capture nearly half of the remaining material that is potentially valuable, potentially recyclable, and that's not including organics. Again, as Elisa mentioned, we have a separate challenge track that's focused on capturing organics. So NextCycle Michigan was developed as a tool to help the state meet its 45% diversion rate goal. And the RSC track specifically was designed to address those infrastructure related gaps in the current system between collection, processing, and market manufacturing using recycled content. So really the entire supply chain needs to be looked at in order to achieve the state's goals. Before we get into the track benefits, I also just want to mention that this program is aligned with climate and equity goals. So we know that using recycled content has a strong decarbonization potential by reducing embodied carbon emissions in manufactured products. So that's really one of the value propositions here. And then we also strive to provide equitable opportunities across a diverse range of geography, organizational ownership types, and communities impacted. And we'll take a look at some of the successful applicants from last year in just a moment. So here we're looking at some of the RSC Challenge Track benefits. So again, NextCycle Michigan is a circular accelerator program. We take this model that's developed for other types of industry like tech and apply it to the recycling system, because we think that the recycling system can really benefit from an injection of innovation and collaboration. So participating in the RSC Challenge Track will help to advance your project concept into an investable ready project. And we achieve this through different areas, providing mentorship, technical assistance, networking, access to funding opportunities, and then public recognition. So let's dive in a little bit more to these benefits. So actually, if you can go back one slide, please. Thank you. So first of all, the RSC track provides a growth opportunity for successful applicants. So Our goal is to expand teams' ideas of what they're capable of while refining their plan into a successful pitch. The RSC Challenge will help successful applicants incorporate innovation and best practices into their business plans while grounding those plans in the context of the Michigan landscape. This is done through many different areas, including one-on-one mentorship with industry experts, workshops, and co-learning experiences, including a multi-day intensive boot camp. So that's one way that we provide that growth, and some of the different ways that we'll be working together if you're a successful applicant. Next, we are welcoming in RSC applicants into an expansive NextCycle Michigan network, which includes a lot of key players in the industry, in the state's recycling supply chains. And as a successful team, you'll have access and opportunities to connect with those key stakeholders and experts and even investors in the industry. So track leads and mentors will help connect you with those people and foster and develop relationships. And, you know, building relationships, even team to team. We've seen a lot of cool collaborations happening between two teams in the same track. So that's something to look forward to as well. Of course, we have access to funding opportunities as one of the key benefits. And, you know, this can include anything from direct partner and investor funding opportunities, from grants, low to no interest loans, impact investment, and equity investment. And then there's also a dedicated award pool and a dedicated pool of Eagle grant funding for RSC track participants. And then last but not least, I want to mention the recognition and publicity that comes with being one of the NextCycle Michigan teams. We have an awesome dedicated communications and marketing team, and participants will be promoted through many different channels, including press releases, social media, mass emails, conferences, webinars, articles, etc. So this is a really great chance to get some exposure to potential investors and partners. And next, we'll take a look at the timeline. Just quickly, I want to focus on the application open period, which is from today until March 31st. We are around to support your application process, and we want to answer any questions. My colleague Yahung is going to dive into some of the cool features we'll be having this year, including application parties and other ways you can get in touch with us to help make sure that your application is successful. Next slide, please. So who can apply? We're looking for individuals, businesses, institutions, entrepreneurs, with investable ideas that have the potential to improve recycling supply chains in Michigan. So this could be a single entity or a collaborative team, and the team could be many different things, right? So it could be the leadership of your company, or it could be a cross-sector partnership that includes multiple organizations. We really encourage collaboration across all areas here. And it's also important to note that out-of-state and out-of-country teams are eligible to apply, but the program must be located in Michigan. And then let's talk a little bit more about eligibility. So first of all, applicants must be able to demonstrate that they will positively and directly impact diversion of Michigan-based materials that would otherwise be disposed of in the landfill or incineration. So really any material focus other than organics is considered eligible here. We're specifically looking for technologies, infrastructure, processes, and models that have already been technically proven. As Elisa mentioned, we have a different track that's focused on some of those more novel technologies. So RSC is looking at things that are a little bit lower risk, proven to be feasible, and potentially helping to scale these projects up or bring them from outside of Michigan into Michigan. So we do encourage existing Michigan-based businesses and organizations to participate, and also invite out of state and even out of country that might have potential to expand or move into Michigan markets to apply. Again, we have a specific focus on private, for-profit, and nonprofit collectors, processors, and end markets. And next, we'll take a look at some of the successful teams from last year's recycling supply chain cohort, starting off with Public Thread. There's a lovely photo of the CEO and founder of Public Thread, Janae Brower. If you're not familiar with Public Thread, they are a textile upcycling company that works with post-industrial textile surplus, and dead stock waste that's generated locally. So they're keeping that material out of the landfill by creating new products. So last year, their project was focused on developing a tote bag that could be used to transport recyclable materials. If you're like living in a multifamily complex, if you're a college student, if you have to bring your recyclables to a specific point to dispose of them, these tote bags are really, really beneficial. And they were made out of industrial billboard materials. So just a fun fact about, let's see, I think the tote bags are made from upcycled billboard vinyl, and that diverted about 60,000 pounds of material from being sent to the landfill. And Public Thread is a woman and BIPOC owned business and employs over 50% BIPOC women. And next up, we will talk about Architectural Salvage Warehouse of Detroit, which is a nonprofit providing reclaimed low-cost building materials to Detroiters and low to moderate income households across Southeast Michigan. The business is focused on keeping construction and demolition material out of the landfill. And last year's project was focused on improving their operations and efficiency by building out their online marketing platform, and that allowed them to keep track of business metrics that weren't currently being tracked. It provided some accessibility in terms of shopping. People had the ability to look online for materials they were interested in purchasing. And then next we have BizAid, which is a woman-owned and operated for-profit business in Coldwater, Michigan, providing recycling services via a hub and spoke model. So the project last year was focused on twofold. One being establishing the materials recovery facility, and then two, developing a replicable plan that would assist others in establishing collection points. And finally, I am so excited to introduce Vickie Lewis, who is also an alumni from Recycling Supply Chain's track last year, and she is here to talk about her experience. She's the president and CEO of VMX International. Thank you so much for being here today, Vickie.
Thanks, Lizzie. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, my name is Vickie Lewis, and I am the president of VMX International. And VMX International is headquartered in the city of Detroit, and we've been providing environmental services for over 20 years. We put together a team when we started working with the automotive industry and learning what some of their future goals were. Most of those goals had to do with going to electrification of their automobiles. And in managing their waste already at the plant, I started to see a potential opportunity to manage the recycling components of the electric batteries. I wondered what was going to happen at end of life. How much of this battery material would be out there, and how could we divert it from the landfill? So I put together a team, the VMX team, and I started working with the college, Tuck University over at Dartmouth College, their business school, and we started looking at some of the data to see whether or not this would be a potential for us in this program. Next slide, please. So as you know, if you've been following the market with electric vehicles, there is going to be a rise of the number of electric vehicles out here in the community and across the country that will need to, at the end of life, be either disposed of or contributed back into the circular economy for second life usage. Next slide, please. So what our team, what we did was take a look at that data to see whether or not any other companies were potentially working to retrieve some of the rare earth elements within these batteries. That would be cobalt and some of the lithium itself, copper, what these elements were. And where do they get them from? Where do these virgin products come from? We wanted to evaluate and find out what the real impact would be if we were able to contribute this back. And we knew that there was not any of these facilities in the state of Michigan. Next slide, please. And so our proposal would be to collect these batteries, for the first stage and kind of send them to the downstream markets which were already available, while we were still evaluating exactly how we were going to make all of this possible. We put together in our proposal a phase 2, and our phase 2 would be to evaluate these batteries for second life and then to dismantle them and then continue to send them upstream. And then our third phase would be to finally have our own recycling facility located here in the state of Michigan. And why not? This is the motor city capital of the world. Next slide, please. And so in doing so, we put together our presentation, and we were so lucky to be part of this program because this program helped us to find all of the data that we needed in order to make sure that we had a program that would be profitable. It would meet all of the demands, diversion, add to circularity, find out where the batteries were coming from, try to develop a stream of the feed that we would have to have for this particular recycling facility. We worked with the advisors that was there, advisors from Centropolis, Dan Rondowski, a lot of the key people that they put together in this program to assist us to meet these goals and to have this presentation and to meet, to be able to actually get started. The support that we got came from the office hours. We had ongoing classes, a schedule where we would sit down with everybody, with our team, because they gave us a team that we could work with to tell them where we are, what assistance we needed. Whatever assistance we needed, they provided that assistance so that we'd have all of the information to put together our presentation. We attended the boot camp. The boot camp, not only were we able to get assistance there, but from some of the other participants in the program so that we can talk about some of the challenges and help with solving some of the problems that they may have had, and then just kind of supporting one another. The success that we had from this program, we went to the pitch competition, and even there, when we were doing the pitches, this program had investors that was there listening to the pitches at the same time. I left from that event with phone numbers and contacts of folks that was interested in investing in the BMX project. Also, since that time, we've already started our program. I'm happy to report. And the recognition that we got from the marketing of this program has led to, I was invited to speak on several occasions about the electrification of these vehicles and how we're going to be diverting the waste from the landfill. I've been invited to speak to different colleges who are training folks in this field to talk about the advantages of starting to look at electrification and mobility as careers. I have also been selected in the class of 2022 by Ernst & Young Winning Women, which gave me an opportunity to go to Palm Springs and meet other investors, such as investors I had not even thought about, potential investors who are interested in the program. I work primarily with the automotive industry, but I met Caterpillar, who has an entire program that I had not even thought about, the smaller electronic, those equipment that would have these batteries and have the same problem. I met with insurance companies that are interested in creating their program, how they're going to be insuring the car, and whether or not now these batteries, will they be leased, and what's going to happen in the future. So I'm part of innovation. I'm part of programs leading to real systems that could potentially be developed. And then today I got notification that I have been selected for Women of Excellence by the Michigan Chronicle. And I also was selected for Crane's Sustainable Women in Sustainability. So this program, none of this happened until I was in this program. I say to you, if you're working on something and you have an idea that would bring value to the recycling and helping us to save this planet, apply and give it your all. Really work this program, because the success that I've gained from this program, and I didn't mention this, and I just want to say, opening up the recycling center, I was passionate about it and it was already in my spirit to do it. I had not said it out loud until I did my presentations, until we put this team together, and until it became public. And when it became public, I'm the first woman here in the state of Michigan, and I'm the first minority woman in the state of Michigan, across in the United States, opening this type of recycling facility. And so to NextCycle, I say thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to present. Now we'll talk to Yahan.
Can everyone see me?
Yep, you're
Yes.
good.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Vickie. That's a great presentation, and congratulations on all of your recognitions. And so everyone, Vickie and her team is an outstanding example of the RSC track from last year. So definitely reach out to her to know more about their experience of participating in the track. And hello, everyone. My name is Yahang Zhang, and I am a consultant at RRS, and also one of the co-leads for the RSC Challenge Track this year. For the next few minutes, I will walk you through some of the details and logistics about the application process. Perfect. So to start off, Lizzie had already mentioned this, but as a reminder, the RSC application officially opens today. It will be open for about 2 months, starting from today until the end of March. So there is still a little bit of time to polish up your application, to ask questions, but make sure to submit your complete application by the end of next month. We have designed the application process to be very straightforward. So step one, simply go to this website, nextcyclemichigan.com/apply. And from there, you can download the complete application packet which entails all of the information needed for your submission. And finally, when you're ready, simply submit your complete application via this online portal. And I will walk you through a little bit about what the application packet includes and what kind of questions it will ask. So to start off, this application packet overall has a lot of useful information, and this will be your ultimate tool and guidance for the program overview and benefits, what kind of eligibility is laid out in there. Thank you. And also timeline and deadlines, as well as online application preview. And also there are a ton of important links where you can explore and navigate and know more about different resources. Next slide, please. So so what kind of questions are being asked on the application? There are 4 categories, and one, information about your organization, a basic overview about who you are and what your organization does and your mission, for example. And the second category will be a clear description about your project work. This, for example, will include your project scope, your stage of the project and value proposition, what kind of value your project will bring to the Michigan recycling communities, and what kind of services you will be promoting and providing to improve Michigan's supply chain ecosystem. And third, we are asking for a planned impact of your project, including environmental and social, of course, economical as well, that are both short-term and long-term. This might include, for example, your greenhouse gas emissions, your social DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion emissions and plans, and also what kind of economic opportunities your project might bring to Michigan's community, such as job creation or livable wages that it will bring to the community. And the fourth category, this can be optional, but if it applies to you, it will be very great if you could share a little bit about your project's partner organizations or project advisors and letter of support. This will help us understand how your team and your partner support will contribute to your project's success. So we understand there might be a lot of questions still, and if you do, we actually have a couple of ways for you to engage further with our RS and NextCycle team. The first one is a very exciting application party for us to all mingle and network. And this will be a virtual meeting that's happening on February 23rd from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. This will be a very open formatted meeting. There is no structure, but basically it will be a very casual and laid back atmosphere. So feel free to hop in and join us for part of it or the whole session to get to know each other. Some details we'll share more with everyone, but in overall, when you hop on, we will break out into different rooms based on certain topics. Either RSC or the I2P3 tracks, there will be different rooms. So you can hop in and out to different rooms to listen in to other teams and also come to ask us questions that are specific to your team. And next, another great way for you to connect with us is actually through an office hour opportunity. You can set up a 30-minute office hour with either Megan, Lizzie, or myself. And this will be a great chance for your team to raise your specific questions related to your team and your project. Or if you aren't sure if this is the right track for you to participate, or if there will be a better track maybe that is more relevant to your project or to your team, we can totally help you navigate through that process as well. So with that, I will turn it back to Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all of our panelists for providing great information. This has been very helpful, but now we're going to open it up to a question and answer session. So I invite all of our panelists to turn on their videos. I am going to get us all up here. There we go. If you haven't submitted your questions yet, use the Q&A button, type in your question, hit submit. I will then see it in the queue and can ask our panelists more questions. If you have questions for Vickie, specific about her experience with the program itself, which, holy cow, what a great presentation, Vickie. That was awesome to really get that in-depth first-person perspective on what you, how you experienced NextCycle. But if anybody else has any questions, please submit those. And I'm looking right now. And I think what I'm going to do is, generally we get some questions. You've heard I2P3 and RSC mentioned several times. I2P3 is the Intergovernmental Initiatives and Public-Private Partnerships track. That is a track that is public sector led. Teams are public sector led. And today we're talking about RSC, the recycling supply chain, which is more private sector led. I wanted to open it up, Lizzie or Lisa, if you can let us know what are some other differences, because I think that's I've seen a number of people saying, trying to figure out which track they're supposed to be on, where they would better fit. Can you give us a little bit more insight on the differences between those two particular tracks that we're discussing in the open application period now?
Sure. So both tracks are eligible for any project type that represents filling a gap across the supply chain. So in that way, they're both very, very open-ended. The biggest difference between them is the other track, the public sector track, requires a public sector lead. That will typically be a government agency, but that can be interpreted in many ways. It could be an authority, it could even be a nonprofit. But there has to be a public sector lead. Now they can bring in private sector partners. So if you're like, you want to manufacture this cool new thing out of a commodity that needs end markets, and you're located in a community that has interest in you doing that, the community could be that lead. But it may make more sense for you if you're a private manufacturer or service provider to apply to this track. But it would benefit you, for instance, if you're a service provider and you want to provide service in a certain community, to bring that community in as a partner. Get a letter of support from them saying, we would love to have company X provide this service to our businesses so they can recycle their cardboard, for instance. So that all said, you really can't go wrong. If you applied to the wrong track, we can behind the scenes say, oh, you actually belong over here, not there. You're not going to get lost in the shuffle. We will make sure you end up in the right place. The other thing is that the application parties and those office half hours are both available to help you further suss out with our track leads where would be the best fit for you.
Elisa, thank you for distinguishing those tracks. More information on the, oh, Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Elisa said because, you know, we really would like you, if you have an idea and you're thinking about this, to apply so that we can line you up and maybe even connect you with another team that applied, that where you would work really well together. We've had a couple of teams built that way that came in, they applied, and then as we go through the review process, they're like, oh, wait a second, you need to create this supply chain. You're working on collection and processing and end use and connecting those pieces. So, you know, each point of the recycling supply chain is a point, and it needs collaboration across the entire supply chain to be a supply chain. So that's what we're looking for from you, is so that you, and just know that we'll be supporting you and identifying what are those other partners that you might want to come in and align with.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. I'm going to follow up with another logistical question. That can one business submit to different tracks with different directions, but ultimately increasing entire success? Thoughts on putting in multiple applications to you submitting to different tracks? Is there any conflict to do that?
There is no conflict, and actually the portal makes it really easy where all your basic information will transfer to a new application. So there's no limit, honestly. If you have two different really cool projects and you're not sure which one would be a better fit, you could submit two projects to the same track. You won't get in twice, but the goal is to get you in once with like what the best fit is. And again, as Matt mentioned, we love partnering folks before they apply or while they're applying. So if we think there's a great partner that would strengthen your application and you're into it, those kinds of benefits happen from this sort of behind the scene curation of the applications.
And then I'm going to go a little more into the review process. So if somebody has now submitted an application, how does a project get accepted? Are there certain eligibility, certain requirements? What is NextCycle, the program, looking for from an ideal project?
I'll take this if no one else wants to. What I will say is take a look at the application packet that Yahang walked you through, because that tells you exactly what we're looking for. So we give you all the tools you need to put together a very competitive and a high quality application. That said, there are both sort of like internal, the NextCycle team reviewers that will review each application. And then there's also an advisory panel for each track. The recycling supply chain has its own advisory panel, and they also will be reviewing. And then there is, they come together and meet for the final decisions. So that's the process that all happens in April once the applications are submitted. And then successful teams will find out in early May if they will be part of the new cohort.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I was asked this question at the boot camp a couple weeks ago in Grand Rapids for the other teams. And I answered it this way. I think good measurable results and a good story are the best projects. So being able to quantify your results in those categories that have been mentioned, and being able to tell a compelling story. And that's one of the things that we're going to help you with through the boot camp and through the technical assistance, is providing you those tools. And Vickie talked a little bit about this. Like, okay, how do you do a pitch? How do you tell that story? So you don't have to be perfect to get in. That's, we're going to help you to get to that next level with this program. But the best ones are good measurable data and good stories.
I like when you said that, Matt, because it just reminds me of how nervous I was in filling out the application. So I just want to encourage anyone, fill the application out, because everything you need, they have the support for all your answer. Any question that you have, they can help, and they can direct you to where you can get that information. Utilize those office hours. I wore those out. Utilize every time. Utilize the office hours. Sit down with they give you a team person that's working directly with you. And so fill out the application, and if you have any difficulty, they'll help you fill that out. So jump in. It's going to be the best thing that you do. And then I wanted to also mention that if I got an opportunity to mentor someone who did not make it, their application was not accepted at the time, but I'm a mentor. I'm so glad that I have an opportunity to mentor someone that has a small project that they're working on. And I can't wait until one day they're sitting in my seat. So apply, yes.
Yeah, so basically Vickie saying, don't be afraid, don't hesitate.
Be afraid. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a great deal of support, even at the application stage. You don't even have to be accepted into the program yet, where we're looking at how can we help you progress. So it's helping you with that application. You have questions. What else do I need? I see a question in here about, is there waste characterization data available? There's a whole section on the NextCycle Michigan website that's a resource library that has various reports up there, including waste characterization data, as well as some other, there's just, I can't even count how many reports are up on that page at this point. So I encourage you to look at that resource library on the website, nextcyclemichigan.com. But additionally, email us. Sign up for those office hours, attend that application party, because that's going to help get your questions answered before you submit that application. But don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. This is where we're here to help you to get that application through. We have a question in here. I'm just going to pose it out there. It's about support policy. Can you speak to support with developing and passing supporting policy?
So I'll take that one and maybe take it a little bit broader than specific policy. The teams that have come through NextCycle and that we're supporting, they have various needs, and some of those are, for example, yesterday on the intergovernmental initiatives and public-private partnership group, we had Dominique Head from Pontiac talk about what his need was related to forming an authority. And what the end result of that was, okay, he needs technical assistance and support to get the language written so that he could go and talk to the other communities. So it was like maybe small p policy, local policy, how you develop that. That's what it was all about. So some of the teams that are coming in are going to look at different policy tools that need to be implemented. Forming an authority, for example, would be an example there. Looking at local initiatives, like on, there's some work on C&D work related to ordinances. On the big policy, that's a longer play. And so a good successful project has a beginning, middle, and an end. If you're thinking that your policy, you need policy to get your initiative in place, I would encourage you to think about earlier steps so you can see an earlier victory. What does that look like? That's not to say that we wouldn't continue to work on that. As soon as somebody leaves the NextCycle Michigan community, you're not like just out there in the world. You're actually built into a group that we can support you on that next step. We can also align coalitions to work on that policy initiative. And I will also say, there's a lot of activity in the policy space right now. A lot of organizations right now are getting their high-level policy initiatives that they're going to work through the legislature. And so getting in that network and sort of getting on one of those lists of organizations that are saying we have policy that needs, that would be something else that you would probably receive as you enter into the NextCycle network.
Great, thank you, Matt, for taking that one on. We do have another question in here, and I'm going to read it and I'm going to try to interpret it, but if somebody else has another interpretation, please jump in. It is, how do materials get approved for recycling and or composting? My interpretation is, are there specific materials that the NextCycle program is looking for from a recycling composting standpoint? Does this open up to all types of materials? But if somebody has another interpretation, please jump in as well.
I think I can start this off, and then Elisa, if you want to build off it, or Matt or anybody else. So we mentioned in the presentation that there's currently like an 18% recovery rate of material that's being diverted from the landfill. And the remaining of that, I think about close to 50% of that has potential to be recycled. So those are the materials that we're looking at, not including organics. So we do have a separate challenge track that's focused on capturing organic material. Flows is working on that. So this track is looking at the remainder of that material. Some of the categories that have, drawn a lot of interest lately are like construction and demolition, textiles, electronics, I guess I would say. And then, yeah, I'm not sure if any other panelists want to build off that, because I hope that helps answer a little bit.
So it sounds like there isn't a specific list of material types, but it's more inclusive. You apply. This is goes back to Vickie's mantra of apply, put it in there. Yeah. Let's have our team help you and evaluate the acceptance. And it looks like Matt, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'd like to add to what Lizzie said and answer it two separate ways. First of all, we've mentioned the gap analysis. We mentioned the data. We've mentioned all of the work that Eagle has invested in to catalog where we're at and where we're going and what the gaps are. And so projects that align with those gaps and can pull out of the data to say, hey, yeah, getting this project going is going to help fill one of these gaps in the supply chain. That's pretty important. So I would encourage you to look at the gap analysis and look at the data that's there. Secondly, I actually interpreted it a little bit different way, and that's why I put my email in the chat, and you can pull that down and send us a note if you have a specific question. Because if you're looking at from a regulatory point of view, like how do I get a permit to recycle textiles or something like that? We can help you answer those questions, and we will get you over into that team that's specific to that work. And that's also part of the work that we do here at NextCycle, is making sure that you're connected with the right regulatory and economic development staff. So that's how I would answer it. I don't know if I can get it right.
Fabulous. I love it. Hopefully we have covered all bases that could have been that question. We do have another question in here that's asking what current tracks are open for submission of applications, and what are the timelines for some of the other tracks that are coming down the pike this year. I could tell you currently it is the I2P3, which again is that public sector led track, as well as the one we're talking about today, the recycling supply chain. That is February 1st through March 31st. And then I'm going to throw it back to Elisa, who's just unmuted. Thank you very much. Can you give us a little hint on what's coming down the rest of this year?
Sure. So right now, the organics track and the recycling innovation and technology track are in their cohorts. And so they are going to have their showcase in the spring. So stay tuned for that in April. We want everyone there. Those two tracks, the organics and the recycling innovation technology, are going to repeat, and applications will open this fall in September, be open through November, choosing teams that next month. And the track programming will go through the winter with the showcase, capping it all off in June of 24. We also will have repeats of these two tracks. So if you apply and don't get in, or you're not sure you're ready to apply yet, public sector and private sector supply chain tracks are going to repeat in the winter of 2024, opening, generally speaking, in February, like we are now. So similar timeline, just a year out from now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Elisa. And we are starting to wrap up our hour with you today. So first, I wanted to thank all of our panelists for joining us. And I want to congratulate Vickie on her litany of successes that have come after her NextCycle time. You have done fabulous things, and you deserve the recognition that you're getting for all of your wonderful work. And we thank you so much for sharing your story with us and our audience today to really motivate them. Don't be afraid, and submit that application. And Matt, could you give just a little 30-second, Eagle really wants you to do this spiel to our audience before I wrap up after you?
I just want to remind everybody that we are investing in you. We know that to have a strong circular economy in Michigan, we need good ideas. We need a supply chain that works. We need to connect that. We need the investment to come. We need the policies necessary. We need to grow our infrastructure. And we're doing that by providing the technical assistance in the process that you have here with NextCycle Michigan. And so I really want to encourage you to engage with this process, allow us to help work with your ideas, connect them with other parts of the supply chain, connect you with the funding necessary to have success. And I have seen the results from these teams, and I see that we are making a difference. We are on the map. Michigan is getting it done. And it's because of you and the work that you bring to this. So I encourage you to apply.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt. Again, thank you everyone for attending. A reminder to reach out to us. NextCyclemi@recycle.com is the email address. You can also go on to the website at nextcyclemichigan.com. There you can download the application packet. There's a green button at the top right corner that says apply. Click on that and you'll download the packet, get all the information you need. Great information throughout the website. But please reach out to us. We want to help you. We want to further this, your projects in Michigan. So at this point, I'm going to bid everybody a great rest of their day.
Thanks, Melissa.